He who loves practice without theory is like a sailor who boards a ship without a rudder and compass and never knows where he may cast. That is a quote by Leonardo da Vinci. It emphasizes the importance of having a theoretical understanding to guide practical application, comparing it to sailing without navigation tools. Without theory, practice can be aimless and lead to unintended consequences. Now, both quantitative and qualitative studies on fat loss or weight loss behavior in adults highlight that to achieve successful long term weight loss, the optimal strategy must involve consistent behavioral changes, which includes consistent self monitoring, portion and calorie control, and increased physical activity. This podcast episode will aim to investigate the research studies to determine and highlight which behaviors, habits, and psychological factors affect fat loss. Analyzing the quantitative and qualitative data will help to extract what factors facilitate successful weight loss. So, to create this podcast, I've had to do a significant amount of research, taken about 2 months, I think, and maybe reading through about 20 research papers to grasp a full understanding of the issue. And I've comprised it all or compressed it all into this bite sized podcast episode. Now, in my coaching work, I've noticed how many individuals experience more difficulty adhering to eating behaviors that facilitate positive body composition changes. This created curiosity in myself to research how psychological factors may affect eating behaviors. According to Aiken et al. 2021, obesity has become a global and national health crisis. In the United States, roughly 70% of adults have obesity or overweight. And that number is roughly the same in the UK, I think is about 60%. If you have obesity, it increases risk for more than 250 comorbidities and other correlated health risks. That is a significant number, which include cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, depression, and poor quality of life. The World Health Organization defines overweight as a health condition of excessive body fat deposits. Diagnosing an individual with obesity or overweight can be done by measuring their body mass index, which is BMI. In adults, overweight is a BMI greater than 25 and obesity greater than or equal to 30. Now, BMI does have its shortcomings, but when looking at the population's weight or being overweight or obesity, it is a useful tool at looking at it at a population level. But like I said, it does have its shortcomings. And when you're looking at it at an individual, there needs to be a little bit more context applied to it, but it is still a very useful tool. Fat loss specifically refers to a reduction in body fat, which facilitates an improved body composition for the individual. Another goal of fat loss is the preservation of muscle mass and improved health outcomes. Swift et al. 2016 defines clinical weight loss as a minimum reduction of 5% in body weight from baseline. So if you lose or gain more than 5% body weight, you have clinically changed your body, right? Anything less than 3%, it would be classed as weight maintenance. So I think 3% roughly equates to around 2 kg. And I think 5% for most people relates to about 4 to 5 kg in changes in body weight. This loss is associated with significant improvements in cardiometabolic risk factors, for example, beneficial improvements in lipid profile and insulin sensitivity. Aiken et al. 2021 states that most adults who have overweight or obesity in the United States, despite trying to lose weight or fat, are mostly unsuccessful. 80% are unable to maintain weight loss or fat loss over time. Now, this research I'm doing aims to discover what, if any, psychological or behavioral factors affect an individual's ability to lose fat or weight and keep it off. Again, Aiken et al. 2021 outlines the principal strategy for weight loss as lifestyle modification with the goals of improving nutrition, and increase in physical activity. This also includes calorie reduction and developing sufficient behavioral skills. This approach is only successful in roughly 50% of adults, suggesting these individuals are unable to implement these lifestyle modifications and the required behavioral skills. Now, thematic analysis of all the studies included in this research focused attention on the fact that causes of obesity continues to be complex, a complex interaction between biological, social, psychological, environmental, policy, and community level factors. Weight loss is a mentally and physically challenging task, including further challenges with social, behavioral, and environmental factors that assist or hinder weight loss efforts concurrently. Having obesity or being overweight continues to increase amongst the global population, which demonstrates the primary intervention for weight reduction of diet and exercise has not resulted in a sustainable reduction. In fact, it's increasing. Eating behavior is complex, which is influenced by psychological, physiological, and environmental factors. The dysregulation in eating behaviors manifests as emotional eating, binge eating, and a loss of satiety signaling, which all significantly contribute to surplus calorie intake. And in low or non existent physical activity environments, then weight gain is achieved, right? Lifestyle interventions are the first line of defense and a plan of attack for sustained weight loss. However, this remains challenging for many individuals. The pathophysiological mechanisms underpinning obesity leads to metabolic and hormonal imbalances in insulin resistance, leptin dysregulation, and altered gut microbiota, which all perpetuate metabolic derangements. The majority of the studies indicate many psychological barriers to weight loss, often described as opposing thinking, environment exposure, social pressures, and weight centeredness, whilst behaviors encompassing more positive facilitators include mindfulness, knowledge, exercise, readiness to change, structure, self monitoring, and social support. Now, behavioral weight loss success depends on important pillars alongside calorie reduction, which include behavioral skills such as self-monitoring, goal setting, and stimulus control. Approximately 50% of adults fail to maintain clinical weight loss over a long period of time because most individuals are incapable of implementing the behavioral skills. Adherence to weight loss behavioral skills requires higher level executive function related constructs. Now, this means higher level executive function constructs build upon foundational skills like working memory, cognitive flexibility, and inhibitory control. These include planning, reasoning, problem solving, and fluid intelligence. Essentially, they involve the ability to regulate thoughts and actions to achieve goals, often requiring coordinated use of multiple basic executive functions. This further encompasses significant planning, decision making, and problem solving skills. A critical finding is the ability of an individual to self regulate between bottoms up rewards driven impulses, for example, consumption of highly palatable foods, and top down cognitive control processes, for example, food planning and delayed gratification. Strengthening self regulatory abilities of the individual can increase self efficacy and thus the success of long term weight loss. To self monitor and self regulate over a long period of time, as in when sights are set on a long term goal, requires consistent use of strong memory skills, organization, and planning skills, and not being overwhelmed by emotion, right? Evidence highlights that individuals with even slightly lower levels of self regulation skills can hinder one's ability to make healthy choices and maintain the lifestyle behaviors required to achieve clinical long term weight loss. Overall, the literature does suggest behavioral weight loss as an effective strategy to combat the overweight and obesity global health issues. However, individuals can struggle to maintain the cognitive effort required to maintain the ongoing lifestyle interventions. Eating behaviors, habits, and psychological factors have a significant effect on fat loss in overweight adults. But how can we construct a clear picture of how all the influencing factors interplay with each other? For many individuals who have overweight or obesity, it would seem the ongoing behaviors required to achieve weight loss or fat loss is an enduring challenge. Even though we can create clear guidelines, strategies for combating obesity, and how or which eating behaviors and habits can lead to success, there are still complex psychological, emotional, environmental, and behavioral factors that require long term attention and skills in implementation. As I've said many times, it's one thing having the knowledge and knowing stuff, but the real change happens when you're able to implement and adhere to certain behaviors or implementing that knowledge. Application is key. Interventions that support an individual's hindered psychological state, for example, low mood, low self efficacy, anxiety, poor body image, emotional eating, but also seek to refine skills and strategies to cope with negative emotion, improving positive lifestyle behaviors, are likely to be most effective. Increasing self efficacy, self regulation, and self awareness are integral for long term success in combating obesity and fat loss. Coming back to the Da Vinci Code about practice without theory, let me describe a theoretical framework diagram I discovered in my research. So the diagram starts with two arrows, one's pointing upwards and one pointing downwards. The upwards arrow is linked to hinders, so behaviors that hinder weight loss, and the downward arrow is linked to behaviors that helps. And then obviously the main goal here is weight loss, and then that's broken up into barriers and facilitators. Barriers include dictomous thinking, environment, social pressures, weight centeredness, and then facilitators include mindfulness, knowledge, exercise, structure, readiness to change, social support, and self monitoring. Now, this theoretical framework helps to identify the risk factors that can bring about obesity. These also include family history of obesity, which is considered a major risk. Genetic and family environments may create predispositions for individuals and variations in genes associated with fat mass and obesity. The key determinants should be addressed and the strategy employed to resolve these facilitative environments. Now, this is why it's really important that if you are someone who is out of shape or overweight or have obesity, or even if you are in a more privileged position and have a more healthier body, it's really important that you think about the behaviors and the lifestyle you are leading will be passed down to your children. So you go into the gym, developing your strength, developing your health, developing your neuromuscular skills, developing your behavioral skills, which are all cognitive constructs, they will be passed down to your children genetically, right? And a lot of our parents didn't have a lot of this information or tools, so therefore they passed down less beneficial or less good behavioral skills to us, right? Now, this can be tackled at a population level through continued ease of access to education, social support, and a continued positive shift in individual mindset around health and fitness. Behavior change seems to be the most effective tool at maximizing weight loss outcomes and creating a lifestyle that can sustain better health. Individuals who may have overweight or obesity or are also more likely to have lower executive function skills. Higher level executive function skills are integral for executing lifestyle behaviors such as long term adherence to a plan and healthy eating. Individuals with overweight or obesity may have impaired neurocognitive mechanisms involved in executive function, which makes it more challenging to adhere to a treatment regime, carry out the recommendations of behavioral weight loss, and maintain behavior changes over time. These individuals need support to develop higher function executive skills and accountability in remembering what is required to adhere to the program, to be more organized and or to plan ahead more effectively. In my research, I did identify some gaps and limitations in the evidence. Firstly, and most importantly, that there seems to be a low amount of evidence to the research focusing on ethnic diversity. The strongest and most recent studies predominantly include white participants and more so white women. Rain et al. 2024 investigated sex specific dietary habits and their association with weight change in healthy adults and revealed notable sex based differences in dietary habits. For example, studies support men increase in animal based protein, women have a stronger belief fruits are an important factor in health compared to men, and generally, when aiming to reduce weight, men seem to benefit from increasing their animal based protein consumption, whilst women seem to benefit from plant based fat consumption. The limitation in ethnic representation is somewhat concerning due to the fact that in the United States alone, non Hispanic black women make up 56.9% of obese adults, and Hispanic men make up 45.7% of obese adults. Secondly, literature seems to be lacking in targeting lower socioeconomic populations and maybe how utilizing digital health technologies could help deliver education support and therapies. This could be an area where what we call AI, which is really supervised machine learning, is not AI yet because it can't think for itself. Anyway, I digress. What I mean is AI may be able to bridge the economic gap. AI may be able to bridge the economic gap at scale. In summary, key behaviors are required to maintain weight loss. This includes small changes, informed decisions, monitoring, and dealing with ambivalence. Numerous studies consistently highlight the importance of improved behavioral changes are integral for weight loss and weight loss maintenance, such as self-regulation, problem solving, and adequate levels of physical activity. Weight loss and obesity continues to be a major health issue and a challenging task for those whom do battle with it. Successful weight loss requires modification of lifestyle and remodeling of newfound behaviors over a long period of time. It also requires social support and the endeavor to be viewed as a lifelong commitment, which then asks more of the individual psychologically. It is a process of growth and self development, not just about getting to a number or a weight on the scales. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.